Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, community policing is the latest approach to the curbing of crimes and criminal behavior in Nigeria. Now, be it kidnapping, armed robbery, banditry, ethnic clashes, and such other crimes that have been bedeviling Nigeria, especially of late. No doubt the state of insecurity is alarming and it is affecting Nigeria's Global Peace Index ranking and development. Now, the way out, many argue, is effective community policing based on the proactive approach, easily the closeness of the law officers to the citizens, and then the constitutional responsibilities that include protection of life and property, detection and prevention of crime, and of course, the due enforcement of the law. Now, community policing also is expected to reconnect the police with the people they serve and also advance workable partnerships for public safety. But how well are the states keen into this initiative? And when we ask this question, we say especially in the aspect of counterpart funding and also, what is the relationship? How is community policing related to the various vigilante groups that we have across the country? Now, these are some of the questions we'll be raising tonight on NTA Tuesday Live. We do have a report that will talk about, will set the tone for this discussion. It will talk about community policing. If we're ready with that report, we'll take it right now. It is by Francis Fom, and it talks about community policing. If we cannot bring that report at this time, midway into the program, we'll still take a look at it so that we'll set the true issues in perspective. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight, it's all about community policing. I'd like to introduce our guests. Let me welcome specially to this program Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State. Thank you for being here, Mr. Governor.
Thank you very much.
Right. We are also joined tonight by Senator Dauda Jika, who's Chairman, Senate Committee on Police Affairs. Thanks for being here, Senator.
Thank you, Mr.
Let me also welcome to this program retired Commissioner of Police Emmanuel Ojukwu. He was at one time spokesperson for the police, Force Public Relations Officer. Thanks for being here, CP.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and we're joined tonight also by Bola Bakari. He's a security analyst and public affairs commentator. Thanks for being here with us.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Every Tuesday, we acquaint you with the procedure on this program. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The platforms will be in your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. However, we also draw attention to one aspect of being part of the program every Tuesday, and that is for those who will be phoning in. We say to you that when your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set, just reduce it. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way for you to know your call has been passed through to the studio is you'll see your name appear on screen. Now, you've been calling in, you've been trying to reach through, and once your name is put on screen, you see your name on screen, it means that your call has been passed direct to the studio. So when you see that, just go straight ahead, ask your question, make your comment. Don't bother about greetings and all that. You probably will not have enough time to do that. And also bear in mind that those long delays might not be good because sometimes the lines can be erratic because so many people are trying to get on it. So if you do get on, please go straight to the point, ask your question, make a comment, leave out the greetings. And certainly our guests here would be willing to address such issues that you might raise. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Let's talk about the approach to curbing crimes and criminality. And we're glad to have the Governor of Katsina State here. And it would seem, Mr. Governor, that Katsina recent has been in the eye of the storm. Now, so many states in Nigeria are faced with insecurity issues. Katsina, in the past, used to be a very peaceful place.
Very quiet.
It's turned around now. And certainly you would be out for any kind of measure to return your state to its former glory of being a peaceful state, almost free of crime?
Well, thank you very much, but there are fundamental issues here. And the current insecurity as it affects banditry, kidnapping, though a new phenomenon, but it was something that was foreseen by some people. But what is before us now is to return the area to normalcy. Then we start addressing fundamental issues that what made banditry, kidnapping, arson possible in our area. Yes, we had relative peace when we came in at a point in 2014, towards the end of 2014, over 140 were killed in 3 of our local governments. When we came in, the report was 2010 every day until we were able to meet the leaders, and then there was no kidnapping. It was cattle rescue. And they were able to have some truce, but it lasted for 2 years because the contagious states to Katsina State did not have a similar problem. So some of the repentant wrestlers were crossing over to other states and committing, and gradually it collapsed. And when, especially Zamfara, if Zamfara sneezes, other states catch cold. So I think really, I think whatever it is possible we can do to restore normalcy. Because for me, my thinking that we can restore normalcy, but the second stage is stopping it completely from happening in future.
Okay. All right. Well, let's come to the Senator. And Nigerians will easily say that we're not short of legislation, really, to maintain law and order in the country. But these are different times. And a lot of people say, look, it doesn't matter whether we have adequate legislation or not. We must bend backwards to find a way out of this new phenomenon that's taking over the whole country. What do you say to that?
Thank you, Mr. Cyril. You see, the whole concept of community policing came up when the Nigerian police sees the need to engage the communities in the issue of policing. That was why in 2004, the police established a police public relation committee. And in the National Assembly, in the 7th Assembly, and the 8th Assembly, we come up with a bill to establish the Vigilante Group of Nigeria, which is part of the community of policing. Because you will agree with me that the Vigilante Group has been fighting side by side with the Army and the Nigerian police in local security information sourcing and other things. So that was why we were able to pass the bill to enact or to give it a legal back, to give the Nigerian Vigilante Group a legal backing, which was passed in 2016 in the 8th House of Representatives and the Senate. And unfortunately, the president was not able to assent to the bill. So practically, it has expired with the life of the 8th Assembly. So, but with this recent development that the president gave a directive and constituted, I think, 14 or 15 men committees, which were carefully selected, which IGP was part of the committee. Those are result-oriented people that will come up with an action plan and a working document on the way out on how to go about the community policing. I think with this administration next level agenda, this is achievable. Okay. Thank you.
Well, let's come to one man who would like to say that policing runs in his veins, and that's talking about CP Emmanuel Ojukwu. Put for us in perspective the concept of community policing and the relationship between law enforcement agents and the community they serve? And is this entirely new?
Okay, it's a modern way of policing whereby the police and the community are on the same page on issues of safety and security. The community comes before the police. There has to be a community before you get the police. The police has to realize that and admit that. And so issues that cause crime and criminality are located within the communities. They wear the shoes, they know where the problem is. They feel it, they know it. So the police cannot impose solutions to these problems on the community. The community has to generate the problems because they wear the shoes. The person closest to a problem best understands it. The community will bring out the ideas on how to solve these problems and then match them with the police, because the police are the formal organization to deal with such issues. The two of them will agree on what to do on the priorities, how to deal with them. That also presupposes that the community will look at the police as their police and not somebody else's police. The police we have in Nigeria is Nigeria's police. It's not police from outer space. So when one policeman goes down, part of us goes down. The community has to realize that this is our police. Every policeman is a Nigerian. He grew up in Nigeria before, 18 years before another. So the two of them share the problem. If a Nigerian dies, part of police goes. If police die, part of Nigeria goes. With that common understanding that we are in it together, the police is now part of the community and not apart from them. There's no we-them dichotomy. These are the police, these are the community. We are together. Because somebody like Robert Peel, he said the police are the people, and the police are the people are the police. So there's this togetherness, this partnership, this joint empowerment, problem-solving approach done together. So community police is a proactive way of dealing with issues, merging the public and the police, so that when it's good for the public, it's good for the police. If it's good for the police, it's good for the public. Now, there are these non-state actors, members of the communities. Every community must devise ways of protecting themselves. They've been there before the police came. Now, the police must cooperate with them. These are non-state, like my friend mentioned, the Vigilante group. They've always been there. So the police works alongside them because they are closer to the people. They understand the terrain more. And we can get a lot if we work together.
All right. On the basis of that, let's go to Bola and say, in the current situation Nigeria is, what and how can you advance this partnership and the kind of role it can play in bringing down, even if it's not possible to totally eliminate, to bring it down?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Cyril. From the angle of analysis of security, let's have the architecture of what we are talking about. Let's start from the Federal Republic of Nigeria that runs the Nigeria Police Force. Cascade it down to the 36 states. Cascade it down to the 774 local governments. Cascade it down to the over 10,000 wards. Cascade it down to close to 50, 60,000 zones. And that is where you have your community. Now that you know where you stand and what rung of the ladder you are, then we now need to look at what is community policing. How do we effect it the most? What are the core values? What are the principles? I'll tell you this tonight. The core values of community policing is interaction, partnership, and problem solving. When it comes to the principles of community policing, honestly, the number one factor is expanding the mandate of the police by going into
the grassroots, decentralizing the police operations by having other appendages, and also taking care of immediate and long-term problem solving. You see, when we have a good architecture and ground, we know where we are going, then we know how to apportion whatever we have on hand to tackle the situation we have on hand. Community policing is the best approach to it. But honestly, we need to look at the situation on our hands holistically.
Let me just dwell on this a little longer. While the police, the Nigeria Police Force, is a formal organization,
That's right.
policing in a community, like SCP Emmanuel Ojukwu said, would depend to a large extent on the community understanding their roles in maintaining security.
That's right.
So it ceases to be the business of, well, the police will come and take care of that.
No.
But the community now puts itself in there and say, look, you don't have to wear a uniform or carry a rank in order to be, a security watch in your
Absolutely.
community.
Absolutely.
Are we having that? Because without that, some Nigerians say, well, if you don't have that feeling initially, then we might just well go back to the same system and say, well, security is the business of the police.
We cannot say that, because part of the architecture we are looking at is, take for instance, the force, our police force. How many are they in comparison to the population? They are less than 400,000. And you're talking about close on 200 million people. So basically, the people at the community level, the wrongs that have cascaded, they are highly important. We are going to bring them into this, and they are going to be a very, very, very substantial part of it. I'll go ahead by saying this. In a community, like CP Ojukwu said, it is the people that generates the intel. They generate the intel the police can work with. You see, when I cascaded it down, now when the intel is now available at the grassroots level, it goes back up. The police might not be at the zone level. In most politicians will know the language of zones, wards, and this. At the zone level, the policeman might not have it that good at that level. But the people in the area, community leaders, royal fathers, we know what is happening, and then that is where we start to gather the pennies that makes up the pound in security maintenance.
Well, let's come back to Mr. Governor. And recently, you hosted your colleagues, and, as well as the IG of police. And of course, we don't need to guess what the crux of the matter was, but give us an insight into the things that you put across, and just how well you and your colleagues are driving this initiative to have effective curbing of crimes and criminality.
Well, what happened is that the northern state governors, we had a meeting. We had a security committee, subcommittee, which I'm heading. And when problem broke in so many states, especially in Northwest, we discussed with IG. They started something in Kebbi to Zamfara. Then we decided to, all the governors in Northwest, to meet in Kazana with the IGP, all commissioners of police. Because whatever approach we are going to have, if the states in Northwest are not on the same page, it will not succeed. Because we did it, it didn't last more than 2 years. Why? Because other states were not on the same page with us. So the whole idea is mapping out how to deal with the situation to bring it under control, what we call return to normalcy, and start addressing the fundamental issues that cause the problem in the first place. So we agreed. And I think by next week we are going to meet again because we have given 1 week, 1 month. We had a committee of secretary to the government of Northwest. Luckily enough, Niger, who shares common border with Zamfara, Kaduna, also joined us, because what happens in Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna affects Niger. And where the chairman of Northern Governors Forum we were having the meeting, he came together with the governor of Taraba, who also has some bitter taste of the banditry and communal clashes, especially between herders and the farmers. So for us is to have a single approach to deal with the situation, to bring it to normalcy, and we have already started mapping out what states are going to do and what we feel the federal government should do in order to really restore normalcy, not only in Northwest, because the problem of herders, farmers clashing, that has become something else. It's not only in Northwest, but it's more pronounced in Northwest, because most of the herders, those who are Nigerians, most of them from Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, Kaduna, moving down south, and those coming from other West African countries of Niger and Mali, there are many. Sure. In fact, if you ask me, the issue of violence between farmers and the herders was first introduced by the herders from Niger Republic, because this started some 30 years ago. The clash. There was misunderstanding always between farmers and herders, but it has never reached a position of even abuses. Also, if there is, they go to the Meungwa, like the security Bora said, or to the village head, and they resolve it. No, but now it has become something else, which we have to deal with, united in the Northwest and other zones, so that if we have common approach, definitely within a very short time, we'll be on top of the situation. And then, because this is very important, and then start doing what is right. Mentioning of community policing, like you said, you have a population of over 200 million, about 900 and something, and you have a police of 300,000. So we want to see really what are the powers and responsibilities of community policing. What is the level of involvement? Since every village has a vigilante, which they maintain. So it is obvious that if they are involved in the community policing, it will do better because they are their own people, and it will work better. What we are spending as a government since we came into office, if I tell you the amount we spend on security, you wouldn't believe. Because now what we are doing is more on security, because the responsibility of government is securing lives and properties of people. This we have to do together with the Nigerian police and Nigerian army. And in our own case, over Nigerian Air Force, civil defense, all. So to have an effective community policing is to have the community involved in those who are to do the policing and to be part of it. Like you said, every crime resides in the community.
Oh, yes.
It starts from one house, 2 houses, and a village. So really, I think it's doable, but it requires a lot of work, because we are talking about how many villages. Even if you ask me, today the villages border on the forest who are having most of the problems, there are 100,000. So this issue is very big, and I do believe with determination and goodwill of the people is doable. But for us to understand that after doing that, we have other problems associated with it.
The fundamentals, we'll come to those, but let's get back to the senator and say, well, how serious are you taking this issue? Of course, you also come from a community, and you represent your constituency, and surely you would have heard, you would have interacted with them, and this matter of security would have been one worrisome one that's been brought up again and again.
Thank you, Cyril. You see, it's not just about the issue of community policing. We have to get it right. In 2015, when we came to the National Assembly, when I was in the House of Representatives, chairing the Committee on Police Affairs, I went on an oversight to various police divisions in the country and police commands. What we saw there was an eyesore, because the police is grossly underfunded. South Africa, with a population of 50 million people, have about 1.9 million police. I challenge everybody, either the police or the Police Service Commission, nobody will come up with the exact number of Nigerian police, known from the nominal role of the Nigerian police to their disposition list. But what we were able to achieve in the 7th Assembly is that we were able to pass the Police Trust Fund Bill into law, which the President graciously assent to last few weeks. It's only on that basis that we can be able to resolve the problem of Nigerian police. The previous administration, when we saw the budget, the police overhead was barely 4 billion naira. That is for their overhead. When you subdivide that, it cannot even fuel the patrol vehicles in the country. When we went to the police divisions, we found that they receive only 30,000 naira monthly for their running costs, as their running cost, because of non-availability of funds. So that was why we now come up as legislators, and as part of our legislative agenda, we come up with that Police Trust Fund Bill to solve these problems. Because there was that move in the 5th, 6th, 7th Assembly when His Excellency was a speaker also. And the bill expired with the life of those assemblies, because part of the prayers was the source of funding will come from the Consolidated Revenue Account. And the Consolidated Revenue Account, the state governors are involved. So I think Lagos State and Rivers State went to court. That it's a double jeopardy on them, because they have a state security trust fund, so the federal government cannot go ahead and deduct money from source from them. That was during the President Yar'Adua's time. So what we do in the 8th Assembly, we now restrict the source of funding to the Federation account and other sources from levies from companies, which we allocate 0.5% to the Nigerian police, unless and until these issues is addressed. But luckily for the Nigerian police, this administration has jacked their overhead to about 10 billion naira, which is nothing. It can still not do anything to the Nigerian police. So unless and until we get it right on the police, before we'll now start talking about community policy.
It's a long way to go. Well, in his opening remarks, Governor Masari said what's happening now was foreseen a long time ago. And some people might say, look, this is coming now, it's a little too late, too little at the time. You think so? Or, there has to be something more drastic and aggressive, because easily, like the Senator just explained now, for community policing to really take shape, there are still certain basics which must be addressed.
Okay, community policing actually came to Nigeria in the year 2004. And it came based on the realization of the government then that the police that we had and that we still have is not performing optimally. Yeah. And then when somebody is not doing very well, you don't just throw away the baby with the bathwater. You make analysis. You scan why is he not doing so, he's not doing well, and then you begin to proffer solutions. So the government of those days thought it fit that community policing will be a way out of the problem by getting the community to understand their police and work with them, and by getting the police to become more democratic and to live dictatorial ways. The police should warm its heart, itself to the heart of the people, to be accepted, for the people to trust them and to work with them. Without this trust of the police by the public, not much can be done by the police, because the police does not police open spaces or forests, but people. Where the people reject their police, there is a disconnect. The police cannot do much.
And over the years, there's been a high incidence of that, the mistrust.
Yes, it was built over the years, and we cannot keep reading history. You read history to learn what happened to you, then to know what to do. History, you don't just dwell so much on our colonial past. We had a horrible colonial government that estranged the people from their police and all that. That is history. Now we have come of age. Our democracy is 20 years or so, I guess.
Yes.
20 years. And the 20-year-old child, man, he must have completed NYSC and be looking for a job. And should be going for the Senate at the age of 20. So our democracy is no more young. It's not even nascent again. 20 years is not a small thing. So the policing of a democracy has to dance the dance of democracy, which is rule of law and respect for human rights. Now the public, Nigerian public, who owns this police, has to train their police to dance according to the tune of the music. The music now is democratic. But what we have is that Nigerians have over the years neglected the police. Maybe because of wrongs done to them by the police, carry over. But you cannot keep crying over that. We must move forward. We must accept the police as our baby. Sometimes you say police is your friend. It's more than that. Police is your baby because it's your creation in the Constitution. You created it. If you didn't want it, remove it. But over time, we've come to, you keep decapitating the police, you remove our functions, give to this, give to this, give to this, all to no avail. In fact, Nigeria, we're going around a circle, and we ain't going nowhere, as the Americans will say. But if you have your police, put them in good perspective, good training, good equipment, good remuneration. You don't just talk about you have police, you pay them 30,000 a month, and you want him to police the nation where there are millions and billions, where people steal and nobody talks about it, where our values are warped. The more money you have, the better you are. Nobody cares to know how you come about that money. Now this is the policeman doing that job. He must go to hell, others will go to heaven. He has the right to refuse to go to hell. And so we need to train the police to be properly oriented to the people. Accept them, give them what they need to do this work. Everybody will be happy. The police will be happy, Nigerians will be happy, and the NTA will be happy, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, still along those lines,
Yes.
the community, you think that the community is holding on too fast to the past, not letting go? I mean, the stereotype, is them as policeman. And you know, at some point in time, they'll tell you, look, even if your brother, your own blood brother is a policeman, turn away from him. Do you think society is holding on too fast to those past,
Once again, thank you, Cyril. Like I keep saying, whatever situations we have on hand, we need to look at it holistically. If we're going to apportion blame, the blame is both sides. The police is your friend, the police is your brother. The civilian will say the policeman is not my friend. The policeman will say he wants to be your friend, either you like it or not. But I preach one syndrome. I am not saying the police force in totality is without blame, because I believe two things. The devil is still alive, and there are imps around. Two, if you are a Christian, even Jesus, in his 12 disciples, he had a Judas. So basically in the police force, there will be bad eggs. So also in all endeavors, in all spheres of government and what have you. That is part of what makes us imperfect human beings on earth. Now let's look at the situation we have on our hands. We're talking in terms of security and taking security to the grassroots by community policing. I'll tell you this. Nobody wants to sleep with his eyes open. Everybody wants to sleep with both eyes closed. All it takes is to give the enabling environment to make sure we sleep with both eyes closed. Unfortunately, we don't have it. One, the number one factor, we discussed that. The police force is grossly inadequate. Of the less than 400,000, half of them are doing security for VVIPs. At times I say Nigerians, we are one of the most trouble-free people on earth. If just less than 200, most of them are being used for some other jobs. If less than 200 can keep us this safe, then we are not a bad nation, honestly. All right. But the thing is, the thing is, we need to give the enabling environment to the police force. And the only way to do that is for us to look at crime in itself. What is the basis of the crime that we are trying to fight? Before we call in the police, before we call in the community police, before we call in parents, fathers, royal fathers, ex-exterior religious fathers, what was the basis of the crime in itself? I'll give that to us because it's highly important. Because if we don't fight that, we are not fighting the crime.
All right, the lines are already open and people are itching to contribute to this program. We have a very first caller on the line from Abuja, Mike, calling in. Hello, Mike.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I just want to appreciate the program. You know, it's so. I want to police. You know, is the wisdom. If you can handle it very properly, to secure Nigeria. You know, and another thing. Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Another thing I want to chip in is community policing. It will help the farmers. You know, some of our communities, we have hunters that know the area of every area of the community. Some of these hunters can choose the traditional rulers, can the good ones, the very good ones, you know, that know all the strategies. You know, every community has that their boundaries, have their strategic points. You know, those hunters can be the leaders that can secure the community. They will know when the enemies are coming in. They will know. So the police, the community policing is the beginning of the wisdom to secure Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Well, at this point in time, let's get to see this report by Francis Fom about community policing and the various angles to it. Right, I thought we had that report by Francis Fom, still in the works.
Ferreira, a professor of police and community relations, defined community policing as a philosophy of full-service personalized policing, where the same officer patrols and work in the same area on a permanent basis from a decentralized place, working in a proactive partnership with citizens to identify and solve problems. The central goal of community policing is for the police to build relationships with the community through interactions with local agencies and members of the public, thereby creating partnership and strategies for reducing crime and disorder. With the growing security challenges in the country, President Muhammadu Buhari has stated the commitment of his government to implement a community policing program. The program, President Buhari said, will be implemented using 500,000 volunteers across the 777 local government areas of Nigeria To address the shortage of manpower in the police, the volunteers for the program will be beneficiaries of the Empower Scheme, a federal government youth empowerment initiative that was established in 2016. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, made this known at the Forum of Northern Traditional Rulers held in Kaduna recently, adding that a citizen-centered and community policing approach will lead to more sustainable successes in the management of internal safety and security threats. The Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar, believed that the traditional rulers are strategic actors within the community policing architecture. He said the traditional institutional structure present a unique framework which, if properly engaged, could enhance the attainment of community policing practices in Nigeria. Reports from across the country reveal that while the federal government is planning to formalize the concept, many governors, depending on the nature of their security challenges, have devised ways of co-opting citizens, directly or indirectly, to provide internal security within their jurisdiction.
All right, that report by Francis Form. And yes, many states have taken the initiative to launch what might be called their own aspect of security, the vigilante groups that are going on. And it's a known fact that many a times governors had purchased equipment for the Nigeria police. And some Nigerians say, well, if they could do that, then they should go the whole hog and embrace in totality the real concept of community policing and put it in place. Surely you have examples of what you've been able to do yourself in Katsina.
Well, like I said earlier, for us, if community policing will work, it's better for us because what we are spending now, I'm sure we are not going to spend as much on community policing. And again, we feel that if properly implemented, because there is a big capital letter if properly implemented, because the IG is saying they will use the Empower as other social intervention projects. We are talking about the villages that do not have a graduate, that do not have a participant in the Empower and the other these social investment programs.
That's true.
Most of the people living on the fringes,
Don't have access.
where these atrocities, especially the banditry, kidnapping, take place, do not have beneficiaries of these programs. So the reality, that's why I say you have to connect back to the rural. Like the Sultan, what I had is absolutely correct, because there is a structure from the religious organization in the villages. They have a structure up to state level. The traditional institutions, they have a structure. Absolutely. Because even if you have 3 houses in a village, there is a leader. If you have 3 houses in our area, there is a mosque. In that mosque, worshiping place, there is a leader. And if you come to the ward level, they have their own leader. If you come to the district level, they have their own leader. Then if you come to a state level, they have their own leader. So there's a chain that we can effectively use. Not that among the traditional rulers there are no bad eggs, there are bad eggs. Because our experience has shown that many of them were participants in this banditry.
Oh, yes.
It was when it became so serious that some of them started withdrawing. Of recent, the governor of Zambola had to depose a whole first-class EMA and some district heads. I had occasion to suspend some district heads, and eventually after investigation they were not found guilty, but I had opportunity to remove so many villagers, some on the support, because the people complained. So we are saying that there is a structure which I believe we can use in advancing the cause of community policing. But using only Empower and as a social intervention may not reach every village and every community.
Okay. Well, we have another caller on the line, I believe. I'm not sure if the caller from Adamawa is still with us. All right, so let's go over to Adamawa. We have this call coming through. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My question is directed to DP Ojukwu.
Okay.
Why is it that each time a policeman is involved in a crime, they always pursue it and get the culprit. Just like the case of Taraba, 5 policemen were killed.
Okay.
It did not take a week; they were able to get the culprit.
Okay.
But if it were another person, it takes time. It takes more than a year, and at the end of it, you hear that you will no longer hear the story. The second question: I don't know synergy that is between you and the military. If it is a good synergy, by the videos we saw today and yesterday, it were the military that even directed the killing of the policemen. What kind of synergy is existing? Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. That's a question which certainly Spear Emmanuel Ojukwu can handle, even if he's a retired commissioner of police now. But again, it's been said all the time, like he just mentioned, that where a policeman, a law enforcement agent, is the victim of a crime, there is swift action and the culprits are brought to book. He wants to find out why is it not so generally.
Well, it may not be correct to say that. There are policemen who have been killed by armed robbers some 5-10 years ago. The police has not been able to find out who did that. But the instant case is mentioned, they know it's a case of strong national importance. We have a nation that is bedeviled with insurgency and high-level crime. If the organizations involved in dealing with this national issue are not working together, if not on the same page, the nation will pay dearly for that. And so the police is duty-bound to make sure that that particular case where the policemen were killed is resolved as quickly as possible so they can get back to their beats. Besides, there's the issue of morale. If somebody has done a good job, he needs commendation. Those men who were killed, from records we read, they've done marvelously well in many cases.
Fantastically well.
There's also many cases helped Nigeria to survive in so many areas. Now they've become victims in some questionable circumstances. Their colleagues who are coming up, those they've mentored, may not be so well disposed to do more to the service of the nation. If by doing more you get killed, so the police needs to resolve that as soon as possible so that boys can go back to their jobs and let us provide safety and security in this nation. Issue of interagency collaboration. If you're in a family, I have 4 children, some of them have problems. If you have 9 children, more problems, 20 children, God will help you. Now, we have so many security agencies in this country fighting for one single space. The more space you occupy, the more your allocation. I had the governor talking about so much money being spent. We need to know who is getting the money. The more space you occupy, the more money you get. So sibling rivalry is natural, where money is a zero sum. The more of it you have, the less others have. And everybody wants space. So fighting could come once in a while. But because these are trained officers, professionals, whose main aim is not in fighting, but engagement with criminals to provide safety and security for the people. So such rivalries, when they occur, they are dealt with as quickly as possible so that they can return to their beats and get the job done.
Well, we might just move it a step further there, and then, okay, let's see if we take this call in from Kogi. Omaye is calling in. Hello? Hello, are you there?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm Omaye from Kogi State. The best to do now in this country is also the police that we have already is not an insult. They should go for a kind of psychiatric test because of, killing people's police will be drunk and start shooting sporadically, just the way it happened like in Lagos and all some other places. It's high time, especially we from the north, central and the north, to also call on.
Oh yeah. Well, we lost that call there. Exactly what we were talking about at the start of this program. But try to call back, and we're just trying to move it a little bit further. Talking about interagency collaboration. Now that's key if you're going to set up community policing. Now you see what happens with other security agencies. Fears have been expressed that wouldn't this extend to the concept of community policing, and in this case it would even be tougher because it's one side now that has the power, the other is just a civil populace.
Like I keep saying, we need to look at this closely. Interagency squabbles happens all over the world. Even between you and I, as brothers, it happens. Between twin brothers, it happens. There is always that element of what is called, there is healthy competition and there is unhealthy competition. In most cases, what we're talking about here is unhealthy competition. But this, in terms of security architecture, can always be taken care of if we factor in a little bit of what the CP Ojukwu said. Money is the root of all evil. The bigger you are, the bigger your budget. The smaller you are, the smaller your budget. And when you as a small entity has an intel that has to be carried out by the bigger body, you will keep the intel and say, let's see how they survive with it. And it becomes, that little ember will become a conflagration. That is where the government of the day and the ministers got so good. Mr. President just talked to his ministers for the past 2 days. It's high time he gives them a mandate. This and this is what I want you to do. And this is how you will go about it. You see, take for instance, the Civil Defense Corps. The mandate is just 3. Protection of government property, licensing to security operatives, and then one other factor. You see, if we give this strictly to them, even if you ask me, when you say security to government property and lives a little bit, taking care of VIPs, we call them their government properties. Like my excellency here, for as long as he is the governor, he is a government property, we have to protect him. My senator here, he is a government property because he represents a state. He represents Nigeria. He churns out laws that rules us. He is a government property. So in instances like that, we can move some other agencies like NSCDC to them and leave the police to everyday crime rather than using them for things they are not meant for. They've been so diminished that they cannot do anything. Another factor we have to remember is this. There is no money to operate. We were trying earlier to kind of categorize, let's say we buy pickup vehicles. The budget they have cannot buy 10 or 20 pickup vehicles for the whole nation. Okay, let's think in terms of the local governments we have in Nigeria, 774. Those pickups are close to about 15 million times 774. Where is the budget for the police? It's gone. Wouldn't they pay salaries, emoluments, retirement benefits, and the rest of them? There was a time one of them came on air and said, even the budget we are supposed to get, if it's X amount, by the time it comes out, it becomes 40% of X amount. My senator here can lend credence to that. If they say 10 naira should go to them, at the end of the day, they get 4 or 5. Where is the rest of the funds? And when you don't give them the funds, at times I pity them. You and I sleep in the house. We have security doors, you have bulletproof doors, you have burglar bars, you have this, because you want to sleep. You know what you do? You put a policeman outside. Is he not a Nigerian? Is he not flesh and blood like you are? People will say, he's doing his job. Are you making his job palatable for him? Those are factors we need to look at. And one of the basic things I normally say in terms of security is always go for the grassroots. Like somebody is doing something wrong, the balance in security is follow the money. If you follow the money, you get to the root of it.
All right.
There are some instances, just give me about 30 seconds more, because we will need to develop on it, and then nobody has the prerogative of intellect. Everybody here has the intellect to make Nigeria grow further. The basic cause is what causes the crime. I will tell you three things: the social, the economic, and the political.
Right.
If we don't tidy up those three, I call them human infrastructure. If you don't take care of human infrastructure, that is human capital development, you cannot take care of the physical development and the development of the nation as a whole. So basically, I want us to trash out the root cause of crime in itself.
All right, we'll get to that. But now let's take this other call from Ogun. Okpe calling in from Ogun. Hello. Okpe, are you there?
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, go right ahead.
I just want to contribute this issue of community policing. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you talk of community policing, and you made mention of three things: partnership, protecting, and problem solving. And as a result of this, you can imagine that without even those involved for community policing, and the people you involve are not well cared for, and are not well placed or meet some remuneration, you don't expect them to perform. One, are they well equipped? Two, were they motivated? Three, take for instance what happened in Taraba State, where 3 policemen were killed while they were on duty. And up to now, I believe that the suspect, the principal suspect, has been arrested. And if this issue, like the people are saying, the policemen are saying, we surely have something to do with their morale, like what the retired city have said. No one wants to die. If you want to kill, if you want to die, you must have the purpose of what you want to die for. And as a result of this, by the time they were well paid, were well placed, you will see that police will perform to the essence of Nigerians.
All right.
Two, the government of the day and masses. Thank God we have a governor, we have one of governor of Katsina there. I think this is time for them now to sit up in that Federal Executive Council and sit down and think of how they can improve on the life of police officers and policemen. Another thing, where police goes on retirement, after someone spent 5 years in service and was paid peanut. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Okpe from Ogun. Well, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll look at other aspects, the fundamentals which Governor Masari talked about, and of course, the same thing from Bola Bakari about the causes of the crime in itself once we get back after this timeout. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians. Our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right, thanks for staying with us. We went out to speak with the citizens and what they think about community policing and other measures to curb crime and criminality. Let's hear the people speak.
Best option for the government to exploit now, as is done elsewhere. In the other clime, community policing is what is being done by the government. Because when you engage the magajis, the obas, the community chief, and the landlords, when you engage them, they'll be able to monitor whoever that has a shady character in their community, in their household. I think that's the next option for the government to explore now. In the 60s, in the 70s, it has been in vogue. That's what it has been. When, in fact, in Africa, we have this sort of communalism where we know everybody. If you don't see your neighbor, you go to his house. Neighbor, I've not seen you for the past 2 days. I hope you everything is all right. So you know his problem. And if your neighbor is engaged or is involved in one shady deal or the other, you'll be able to tell the head of the community, say, Baba, so has gone to the town, and whenever he comes to the village, this the kind of thing that is always bringing. Please, what's he doing for a living? And our parents in those days, they will ask if their word brings something that is beyond his living. They will ask question, unlike what we have these days. So it's not a body culture. It has been our culture. It's our value, and we need to reenact it so that there will be peace in our land.
The community policing will be of a great assistance, because within them they know who is who, and they know who can handle matter amicably with sincerity. and not handling it to somebody who will mess up the whole thing. Because when the police are involved in matters relating to community, then they will be able to select notable people and honest people who can give them right information and not people that will bring an information that will not be of a benefit.
If there is this community policing, it's going to supplement the effort of the key securities officers that we have, and that will go a long way to solve a lot of problems within the community. For Nigerians to be in order, for us to have the securities of life and properties that we had before, ideas of community policing is a welcome idea. So we want it in this country, and it will help us a lot as a country, as a nation.
So if you're talking about community policing, right from the time immemorial now, you realize that it's the community that are providing security for themselves. In the sense that the youth of that particular community, the ones that they know, the ones that the community knows that they are good, they will give them the mandate of securing their community, maybe without even pay at times, or at times they will try to be appreciating them because they need maybe some gadgets that will help them to work as to work in securing that community.
Right, the voice of the people. As they say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Well, Governor Masari, from what we've seen so far, we would say Nigerians have no problems at all with community policing. The only thing is that the affairs express that leaders do not relate with their people in terms of building up confidence, trust among the populace and law enforcement agencies. Now you have an added advantage, having been on both sides. You've been a legislator, you were Speaker of the House, today you're a Governor of the state, the Chief Executive. Give us a perspective on how this can work.
Well, I do believe it can work. I think like I said, the Commissioner and also we all said it, the fundamentals of the community policing, if properly followed, will work. Because, like this gentleman has said, right now so many communities have vigilantes. They are taking care of the vigilantes by buying them battery, torchlight. So they are already there on ground. The people are providing some form of security for themselves. What we are experiencing where I come from is a totally different phenomenon, because these are people with AK-47, AK-49, and other sophisticated arms that are beyond what an ordinary vigilante can confront.
That's true.
That's why we are saying that we have to do whatever it takes to restore normalcy. Then we start addressing the issues. But I am absolutely for community policing. Even now, it will address so many things, because not all the areas, even in my state, not all the areas have this insecurity problem of bandits and insurgents. No. There are some areas that are bordering forest area. But coming inside the state, you don't have that. So the community policing, I'm just trying to remember, like he was saying, in the late 60s and the early 70s, in Kaduna, we used to see volunteer police, especially on weekend, because of constabulary or something.
Constabulary.
Yes. They were there, assisting the police, especially on weekends. And even with the Federal Road Safety Corps, they have volunteers. So this issue of having volunteers is not a new thing.
Right.
So we need to develop it
Absolutely.
by involving community, real community, real community. Then I'm sure it will work. And the other aspect of what we are facing as a country, insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, is another scale of criminality.
Yes.
That has a root in the local community, but now it has gone a certain level that you have to eliminate it before now you start re-educating the conspirators, because there are many.
Well, speaking about volunteers in the police, then I think CP Emmanuel Duku, then they were popularly referred to then as Thursday police, something like that. Yeah, right. I do recall. As a young boy growing up, there were those we called Thursday police. Yeah, mostly. But we have a caller on the line now from Ondo, Francis calling in. Hello, Francis. Go right ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, go on.
Okay. My name is Francis Adekto Soye.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good evening, sir.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Francis Adekto Soye, retired ACP.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, security is considered as the state of law and order prevailing within the society or nation. It is an act of keeping peace. In other words, it is the absence of fear. I sent a text here just now that a poorly motivated, psychologically dejected, and professionally ill-equipped police force cannot give the country a better deal.
Yes, Francis. Are you still with us?
So we need to take into consideration about what we give to our policemen. They have so many loads to carry, and if this load are not reduced, they will look at ineptitude. Take into consideration the United Nations standard that says 1 policeman to 400. Are we been able to meet up with this standard? And again, when you think about dismissal of policemen who have served you, dismissal of professionals like the military who have served you for 10, 15 years because they have taken 5 naira or 10 naira from the road, you push them to the society. What do you expect them to do? They will be the best armed robber. They will be the best kidnapper. They will be the best bandit. So we need to be very, very careful in dealing with all our policemen. In everybody that carries arms. The moment you train them the act of carrying arms, please don't throw them to the public. It's just like throwing live snake from the zoo into the member of the public. They should create avenue whereby they can make use of them so that they will not become nuisance in the public. These bandits you are seeing, they are not farmers. They deal with arms. These are professionals who can have grabs of the arms. So you don't expect a farmer who had never seen AK-47 before to pick AK-47 on the road today and start shooting. No, these are trained hands, either from the military prematurely retired, or dismissed from the police, or dismissed from any force that carries arms. The government should think about all these things. If we don't do it now, they will become nuisance. An inspector was arrested about 3 days ago, caught in the act of robbery, and he had been doing it for years. Look at your robbery. A corporal was there, he killed 9 policemen. So that's my contribution for now.
All right.
God bless Nigeria.
Right. Thank you very much, Francis. Another angle to the whole issue we're talking about. But again, we did say at some point in time that there are other fundamentals, and addressing the issue, bringing it down to the barest minimum, and now we'll begin to take a look at what causes this, and it causes it in the first place. And easily would say, what are those issues in society that have led to this situation where, one, people are more daring now to be on the other side of the law, and it would seem that the enforcers are unable to cope. Dr. Masari, you talked about those fundamentals that must be addressed.
Well, let me always try to work with an example. If I take Katsina State, some 40 years ago, the population of Katsina was not up to 4 million. Today we are talking about 7 to 7.5 million in the same land area. So there will be competition for space, land, water, and even the air we breathe. And the competition between human beings and animals.
Yes.
What did we do? Did we prepare ourselves for this? We did not. We were growing
without planning.
And the part of the fundamental is education. Because education makes you a better craftsman, a better artisan. We don't have, I'm not talking about even education to be a professor or a doctor, but something that can make you gainfully employed. Now, I'm sorry to bring an issue which is dead. People, when you talk about Riga, people feel that you are bringing in something from the moon. But Riga is not a Fulani word. It's not a Hausa word. It's an English abbreviation of rural grazing area. That was created by the first leader who had foresight. They know this roaming about with animals cannot work. So the idea, it was created, and Fulanis were advised to come and settle by the side, use the grazing area to be grazing so that they don't need to, with water points, in some places windmill, in some places earth dams, and all the central issues here. We have overblown population on a limited space of which we did not prepare. And the best way would have been to develop educationally so that education will answer most of our questions. Now what we confronted some of the people, the bandits. If you come, I always try to take my state as an example. He will tell you that he's a Muslim. If you ask him what is Islam, he doesn't know. So he has not been to even the Quran school, he has not been to Western education school. So what do you think the difference will be between him and the animal? It's simply he can talk, the animal cannot. So he's more dangerous than the animal. Because the animal cannot carry AK-47 or 49. But he can. They are so daring that they can confront the military.
With the police.
So the other elements, foreign element that has come into our area and the forest is a different matter. But here we are, if we want our population as Nigerians, we must find gainful employment. And you cannot have gainful employment that support life without education.
All right. Okay, let's go back to the phones. We have calling in from UB, Ahmed. Hello, Ahmed.
Hello, Mr. Segan. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, my name is Ahmed from Yobe, Tamatik in particular. Yeah, my question goes to the distinguished Senator Halim Jika. I think I followed him while he was a member of House of Reps as the chairman House Committee on Police Affairs. I want him to give us an update on the Police Trust Fund, because if you look at what has been achieved by the Lagos State government, because of a model like that, it has helped in preventing a lot of crimes in Yobe. And I feel if it's amplified in a national level through the police, because almost all the panelists there have discussed about the roots and the sources of crime in Nigeria, that the solutions are actually evading us. So I feel the Police Trust Fund is one particular institutionalized way of handling this thing. So I want him, as a member of the National Assembly, as the chairman, Senate Committee on Police Affairs, to give us an insight on the effort they are trying to make sure that that bill comes to life. And if possible, he should give us a timeline we should look at when that will become a reality and help us in tackling this issue of insecurity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Right, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Cyril. As I said earlier, the bill was first introduced to the National Assembly in the 5th Assembly, 6th Assembly, 7th Assembly, but it was able to pass in the 8th Assembly when I was there in the House of Representatives. What the bill seeks to achieve is training, retraining for the Nigerian police, equipment, uniforms and accoutrements, ammunition and others. So by doing so, I believe, or we believe, most of the problems of the Nigerian police will be over. As part of our legislative agenda, when we come into this 1999 assembly of Senator, with the Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawal, which is part of his legislative agenda, we put security on the top list, which is why, as the President directed, the President has already signed that bill into law. It is now with the executive to implement. So we have done our own piece of legislation as lawmakers. We have passed the bill. The bill is now with the executive to start implementing, which I believe President Muhammad Buhari has already gave a directive and set of a committee to come up with the modalities on how to go about the police trust fund, and which I believe it will soon kick up.
All right, Sipi. A number of Nigerians have said, look, in actualizing effective community policing, the police itself should also think about changing certain practices. They suggest, for instance, that it would be best to send policemen to their own indigenous areas, because that way they can relate better with the people. And sometimes they wonder that you send a policeman somewhere and he's unable to communicate with the local populace, and that would even fuel the suspicion, and no one would really give him any tips on anything.
Yes, it has been practiced before, and it's actually still in practice. The police that we have is, if you don't mind the word, bottom heavy. We have like maybe 20,000 that are senior officers. The remainder 290,000 or so are junior officers. So you can see it's bottom heavy. Now these are the real operators of policing, because they're in the actual theater of policing. They're the ones you find on the streets. They're the ones that carry AK-47 or AK-49. They're the ones that do escorts. They're the ones that you find in the houses of VIPs that we have. So that the real policemen actually, the other ones are the strategic level. So the real policemen, most of them are indigenes of states where they serve, or of contiguous states. If you go to Enugu State now, some of the policemen there are from Anambra, Enugu, some Igbo-speaking areas. But their commanders may be from other states. Because what we have is a federal police, is Nigeria police, and every policeman has signed an agreement to serve wherever he is posted, and policemen are posted to communities where there are Nigerians. And it's a very unique organization. So sending policemen back to their states will help. But that is not just the thing. You are sending somebody who is not trained to his state. You are sending somebody whose attitude to work has been distorted by Nigerian factor back to his state. It will not help us. What we need first of all is to change the attitude of the policeman, that this job you are doing is an honorable job, and Nigerians will respect him because he's doing an honorable job. Some see police as dustbin, footmat. Then you saw police, you are not educated. Who told you? They went to the same school like your children did. Police are insulted. Let him have a proper orientation and attitude that is positive to his job. And let him be trained. Sometimes I see some of these VIPs having 60 policemen in their houses. I laugh at them. Of a truth, they're playing with fire. Why do I say so? The policemen carrying gun with you, they are not trained. You haven't trained them. You are using them for show. You are taking a risk. Train these policemen that they can be useful to you and to everybody, but they close their eyes to that. And they don't want the police for show. The first thing to be done, whether he's sent to his village or to somewhere else, let him be first and foremost be trained in a police training institution where the trainers are properly motivated to give in their best. Not where you send somebody that you don't like his face, you send it to a police college, he becomes garbage in, garbage out. So let's change our orientation to the police.
All right, let's go back to the phones from Jos. We have Isa calling in. Hello, Isa. Go right ahead. Isa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Siri.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to hear my opinion. My name is Isa Father. I'm calling from Jos.
You don't have it here.
Thank you. You see, I just want to have a personal experience. My question goes directly to Mr. Bakari. You see, experience. What are the security agencies doing, particularly the police, to ensure a proactive measures rather than reactive to tackle the high level of crime in Nigeria? And secondly, my question goes to the Excellency, Mr. Governor of Katsina State. I have seen something that impressed me in Kaduna and Lagos, the appointment that promotes harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Is he going to apply that same method in Katsina in order to promote peaceful coexistence and harmonious relation in Nigeria? Thank you very much. Isa Father from Jos.
Right. Thank you very much, Isa. Well, first we'll let Governor Masari comment on the last part.
He said he saw something in Kaduna and Lagos, but he didn't tell us what he saw.
Well, he said, I guess he's referring to appointments in those states that he says, promote
I think, you see,
harmonious living.
Every community has its own peculiarities.
That's right.
Lagos is too cosmopolitan. Let me tell you, somebody from Katsina is among those nominated to be commissioners in Lagos because he was born, brought up in Lagos. He speaks the language like any Lagosian, and he has participated in the political activities in Lagos like any other Lagosian. So, but if you live in Katsina, which is not as cosmopolitan as even Kaduna, so you don't expect Kaduna treatment may not necessarily work. But what we have done is that we have given political appointment for a representative of indigenous Nigerians so that they can have a voice in government at a senior level. Political appointment. We gave somebody of Igbo extraction. And despite the fact that Katsina is 98% Muslims, we still give a senior appointment to represent the interests of Christians.
That's right.
So our government is open. We have gone beyond appointments, but inclusiveness of the general population in the state, irrespective of your religion or where you come from.
That's true.
That's why we don't have communal clashes in Katsina. We don't have religious clashes in Katsina. What we have are issues of banditry and kidnapping along the forest area in Katsina State.
All right. Well, the first part of his question had to was directed to you.
Yes, my brother Cyril. He was making a point there by saying the police are not proactive enough. But he is forgetting one rule of human relations, which is bad news is good news.
Yeah.
If you're doing good, nobody sees it. The moment you do 5% bad in 100%, everybody latches onto it. I am not saying the police does not have its own faults, but let me give us a kind of breakdown for the past 60 days. The Taraba case was a pure case of good policemen doing a fantastic job. There was a mistake somewhere, and then they lost their lives. May God bless them. Take it back a little bit. Somewhere in River State, some miscreants just walked up to 2 policemen on a checkpoint and shot them because they wanted their guns. Within the same 60-day time frame, some miscreants walked into a police station and killed 5. The DPO, the DCO, a pregnant police sergeant, and some other people like that. Some Nigerians feel, oh, they are on their duty, they are on their beat, they should have done better, they should have been on alert. For God's sake, they were on alert. If anybody catches you by surprise, it's unfortunate. People don't look at all the sacrifices the police make on a daily basis. We latch on onto the bad they do. But what I would say is this. We need to love them more. There is one piece of human psychology. Well, you won't believe it. If a policeman stops you and you tell him, hey, officer, how are you today? In a nice tone, his reaction will change because you're treating him like a normal human being. In most cases, Nigerians will say, what do you want? Yes. My papers are complete. You're talking to him as if he's not a human being. In most cases, he is older than the guy who is driving. In most cases, he's been in the sun for 6 hours while you were in your air-conditioned vehicle. And you're telling me he's doing his job? On that 30,000 or 40,000 he picks up a month? For God's sake, we need to accord them some respect. And part of that respect stems from what I said earlier in terms of the basis of crime in itself, which I said is social, economic, and political. Let's speak on the social aspect of it. I will tell you one thing. Parenting in Nigeria has gone to the dogs. Nobody takes care of the kids anymore. The 2 parents work from 9 to 5. All in the process of looking for money for this or for that. There are instances where I have seen not once, not 10, not 20 times. The police apprehended a young man, maybe 14, 15, 16, an adolescent, who has money on him and is misbehaving. The father will pick up the phone and tell the DPO, release that kid now. Not even minding what the kid did or what he didn't do. Release him now. And there goes it. Because of his position, there goes the kid. Now that 15-year-old kid becomes a 25-year-old miscreant. And then he will call the police to go and pick him up. A lot of things happen from the family setting, and then if it happens, the police is not doing a good job. If it goes wrong, the police is not doing it. Nobody is saying, when you were bringing up that kid, what was your job designation? I always say one thing. What legacy are we giving our kids? Before we blame the police, what legacy are we giving our kids? How do we train them? How do we bring them up? None of us came from moon. We were born, bred Nigerians. Like His Excellency said, we are a peculiar people with a peculiar problem. My brother, we will still have more time to talk about it.
As society gets the police force it deserves, that's what you say?
Yeah, no, as I am saying it, the police force the police force we deserve is not less than 400,000. It should be in the range of 1 million plus. Okay. And all the factors, Excellency Senator and CP said here, all the other factors we all mentioned should be factored into it. Right. Then we would have a good police force.
Okay, so then as we move forward to set proper community policing in place, what are those things Nigeria should look out for to facilitate this proper implementation?
I think first of all, Nigerians should understand their police. Where their police is coming from, what makes their police tick, what are the challenges of their police. And the community policing is not an add-on, not a project. You are reorienting the police to move from a reactive system, traditional system, to a modern proactive system of working, whereby the police has to be led by intelligence, which is got from the public. And so they must cooperate with the public. They must partner with them. Whereby the police subordinates itself to the public. It does not think that he knows it all. It does not deify himself. And the public too does not deify the police. Don't think the police are gods. The police is your servant. You will accept him as your servant. Give your servant the wherewithal to serve you. They say in local parlance, good soup, now money they make am. If you don't give him good money, don't expect him to do well. So it requires that collaboration. First of all, understand the police, where they're coming from, what are their challenges, and think with the police the way forward. You cannot shave somebody, they say, in his absence. The police must be a key participant, a key beneficiary of community policing. But Nigerian public are the greater beneficiaries if the police works well. If the police is positive, is proactive, led by intelligence, where there are gadgets to assist policing. Instead of talking about police manpower, 400,000, 800,000, it doesn't arise so much. Elsewhere, there are streets you pass through, you won't see police outside of Nigeria. Police are not there. What does police work are equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Each CCTV is more than 100 policemen because it runs on 360 degrees. It sees everywhere. A man was giving me a story that I was in Israel, and that their CCTV could capture you if you are making a phone call. You may even see the number you are calling. That is high tech. And Nigeria can afford it if we put our money where our mouth is. Get our priorities right. Police.
Okay. Well, Senator, what should be the responsibility of the citizen?
All right, thank you, Israel. I think for now, in order to achieve an effective public policing, I think there are some factors that need to be put into consideration. First, peculiarities. What is obtainable in Bauchi might not be in Katsina, and something might not be in Lagos. So those people coming up with this action plan should put those factors into consideration, so that it's only when that is done we'll get it right. So and the citizen have a role to play, a big role to play. And for now, the governors and the local government chairmen have a big role to play also, because the Police Act allows the police to accept contribution from the society. That's from the authority and then the other private organizations. So with that, I think we will have an effective community policing in Nigeria. Thank you.
Let's see how Katsina is dealing with some of these issues, Mr. Governor. For instance, the traditional institutions and the religious organizations, which members of this panel have identified as vehicles through which effective policing can be carried out, as well as good interpersonal relations. What's the Katsina experience?
Well, I think when the issue of this banditry came back, I summoned a meeting of all religious leaders, all of them. We met and we agreed to pass the information to the last point of a small community mosque in those areas that are inhabited by Christians, in the last church in the community. Because we know Friday and Sunday sermons are very effective.
Extremely, yes.
Of communicating. And our religious organization, especially the Islamic Code, they have a chain of what to see or the issues to discuss on Fridays before the Jumat prayer and the Johar, the khutbah. And we also met with all the traditional institutions. What we have now, we have complete record of all the Fulani leaders living along the forest, all the community leaders living along the, because we have 8 frontline local governments, and the others which are adjacent to the frontline local government. We have compiled all the lists, all of them. And we are going to meet with them and give them instruction on how to do. Because what they said now, information is critical to the success of any operation. And for you to get information, you have to build the confidence. The confidence of the local people through their local leadership. Because there is a disconnect. You know, when we came with the reform, the local government reform, all other reform, completely cut off these people who have structures, because their structure has gone deeper than a political structure.
Yes.
Because the political structure, in most cases, starts from the ward or from the polling unit. But there is a polling unit which you have 5 villages patronizing. Who looks after the other villages where the polling unit is not situated? Are these local leaders? So when you cut off this chain, you have cut off a vital source of information. Because like I said, every crime so committed must be committed by somebody in a particular area in that community. Even if he's a stranger, if he comes, he lodges somewhere. He operates with somebody.
Yes.
So obviously the involvement of the local people, the community, surely this is what we are working on. In fact, the police are talking about community police. We don't know how long it will take. We are working with this structure to start addressing some of the issues. And it's also what we discussed when all the northern state governors, including the Inspector of General of Police, including all the commissioners of police, in order for us to have a comprehensive peace that we can restore normalcy, we need the cooperation of all this. And this is what we are working on.
Well, we have spoken to you so far as elected governor of Katsina State. Now I want to go on the other side. As a politician, many Nigerians have blamed the political class, the political elite, for the causes of some of these problems. And I want to hear what you say.
This problem is fundamental. It started years even before democracy. I had the Commissioner of Police was saying 20 years. Yes, 20 years in the life of a person is something, but not in the life of a nation. 20 years is something in the life of an individual, but in the life of a nation, this system systematically, for I can, by little understanding, well, since the beginning of the local government reform in our area, which eroded the community values, because it cut off and transfer authority to a councillor in a ward who has a maximum of 3 years. And once you say the councillor must have gone to school, fine. Somebody has gone to school, he doesn't even know the community he is representing. So he comes to the local government headquarters. In 3 years, you have disrupted his life because he has changed his lifestyle. The people will not elect him again. Out of envy, jealousy. So it is not, we had an opportunity really to work for this country. In fact, it is, even though I'm a politician, you may not believe me, but the politicians now are the ones that are trying to really reinvent, because we have drilled. Like he said, we have drilled. And this drillment, you don't blame the government of 8 years, 12 years. No, it has been systematic for a very long time. When the country started to get money without knowing what to do with the money.
Yes.
So all hell let loose.
Well, the other politician on this panel, of course, is Senator Aliyu Dauda Jika. And again, we put this in a similar way to you. And what do you do with all those youth vanguards? And they say the kind of politics we play when we are up looking for the votes of the people, we form all kinds of vanguards, youth vanguard, and they go out and nobody controls them to an extent. And by the time the contest has been won, you find out that those people who engage them have no use for them anymore.
Yes.
And that also contributes to the problem. So what do you have to say to that?
Yes, thank you, Cyril. You see, America was able to be stable after 37 years of practicing democracy. Ours is barely 20 years, as they rightly said here. What inspired me to join politics was the passion I have for youth and women of this country. Because I started politics from the university level, way back when I was in Kaduna Polytechnic. You see, they are the backbone of the society, but they are the most neglected. So that system has to change. That was why when I got elected into the State Assembly in 2007 and subsequently became the Speaker of Bauchi State, I was able to pass bills and laws for youth to establish the Agency for Youth and Women, where youth and women would be trained and become useful to the society. And we were at that time, the infant and the maternal and fraternal mortality rate in Bauchi was very high. Bauchi was recorded one of the state with the highest number of mortality rate. We were able to pass a bill for free maternal care of all the pregnant women in the state. That thing is still working in Bauchi State. So I was able to pass into law a total of 37 bills into law in Bauchi State, which are still functioning in Bauchi State. So I think it is a duty bound on all the politicians to first put youth and women in the society as a priority in all their programs. Thank you very much.
Well, Bola Bakari, back to you. And you've seen a lot happen. You commentate on a social event, on social, the socio-political system that we run.
Absolutely.
Right now, this is a challenge that demands drastic action. Beyond it, let's assume you put all this in place and you engage in proper community policing. What should be the next step?
Once again, thank you, Cyril. Thank God we are at the level of trying to tackle the root cause. We've been able to look at the social aspects a little bit. His Excellency and the Senator here have been able to delve a little bit into the political aspect. The other aspect is the economic factor. But it is the social and the political that drives the economic. So basically, let's lay our emphasis on the social and the political, because the political drives governance. That's little wonder they say politics and governance, they run pari passu. If you look at the family, right, the family metamorphoses into the human being that becomes the politician, that becomes part of a political party, that ends up being a senator or a governor. The onus is on them. Because right now, 200 million Nigerians have chosen 109 human beings to be their senator. We've metamorphosed ourselves into 109 in the Senate and into 360 in the House of Reps. The onus is now on them to deliver to us the populace so that we can have a system that drives an economy that drives the people, that are people-oriented. We have too many of our kids footloose, doing nothing. We have been able to breed our kids in a way they don't want to go back from, having loose and easy money. I ran an inference some years back when I was saying, what kind of legacy do we leave for our kids? I said, look at Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is the greatest thing in Formula One today. His father took him to a go-kart rink at age 2. Look at the Williams sisters. Their father taught them how to play tennis. They are the greatest thing in tennis these days. Look at Tiger Woods. His father is an ex-military man. His father taught him how to play golf at age 2. What do we teach our kids? we teach our kids how to look at money. Money, not even where it's coming from. They don't care about where it's coming from. They just look at the money and say, yes, I am going to make money.
Religion.
We need to have a rethink along those lines. Like you rightly said earlier, Cyril, that the situation we have on our hands stems from the fact that politicians pick on mixed screens, arm them to achieve their aim. At the end of the day, they leave them alone. I ran inferences to what gave us Boko Haram. I know a lot about security factors. For people who know the Northeast very well, about 6-8 years back, when Boko Haram was at inception, when these miscreants were left alone, they killed 4 government officials. Ateke Tom, Fenami. For those who are from the Northeast, they know the names I'm mentioning. They killed them because they were the ones that were supposed to, in quote, maybe disburse the funds to them. And once the funds were not coming, they killed them. That was the beginning of Boko Haram. Because while we were busy sowing the seed of discord and fanning the embers of insecurity, some people somewhere were busy watching us. Trans-international terrorism, they were busy watching us and say, let's see how far these boys can go. When they saw how far they can go, they used them as a vehicle. I'll run a fast one. I'll fast forward it a little bit. When these boys became good and the international terrorists picked on them, the first base they went to was Force Headquarters. It was with a small IED. It made a small boom and 2 people died. They moved from there. They went to United Nations building. 27 people died. They moved from there. They went to Yanya. Close to 100 died. Now, we have from our own stupidity and recklessness, we have now created from little embers. Now it's a conflagration. We have created a situation that is beyond our hands. But the thing is, with politics, with economics, and with the social factors, if we can put that in perspective and become better human beings, and that is why community policing is at the base of it, because community is the grassroots. Like you rightly said, when we were growing up, I can eat in your house, 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 when we were growing up. Because the community takes care of everybody. If you misbehave, your dad will beat me. If I misbehave, his dad will beat me. So it's a community thing. So community policing, going back to grassroots, is on 2 or 3 fronts. 1, intel gathering. 2, social lifestyle that is breeding a better human being. And on the 3rd phase, giving appropriate help to the police. Because one of the principles of the police community police is expanding the mandate of the police. That is, giving the police a hand.
So, well, on the final note, as is with many projects, is there a way that Nigeria would say, look, this will not suffer as on account of inadequate funding, which happens to be like a sing-song these days, everything paucity of funds? Governor Masari?
Well, I think if we go back to the Police Act, as amended mentioned by Senator, I think we can have a much more permanent source of funding, which we are sure of. The budgeting system, we all know that is dependent upon collections.
Yes.
So budget basically is a statement of intention.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And that intention cannot be fulfilled unless all the variables are in place.
That's true, sir.
So it is like was said here, you had a budget of 100 naira, you were given 40 naira. Because that was what came to the treasury.
Oh, well, as I always say, no one program can take care of all the issues.
Yes.
We must end this conversation here at this point in time and extend our gratitude to all our guests. Let us say a very big thank you to Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State. Thank you so much for being here, Governor. Again, we say thank you to Senator Haliru Dauda Jika, who is Chairman Senate Committee on Police Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Sura.
All right. We were also joined tonight with very incisive insights into the issues at stake by Emmanuel Ojukwu, retired Commissioner of Police, once a spokesman for the Nigeria Police Force. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And of course, we have been here with Bola Bakari, a security analyst and public affairs commentator, who's also giving us an insight into his thoughts on this issue. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you too.
And so to all of you who called in and stayed with us this far, we say thank you to you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.